Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another educational video. My name is Simon Gooding. I am an online coach. I've been an online coach for over 10 years now. I've been training for over 17 years. And today we're going to be talking about how to lose body fat, but not lose muscle, because that's a very important part of a fat loss process. So welcome to this guide. Let's jump right in. Now, firstly, when we actually look at going into a calorie deficit, often that does mean that we are reducing down the carbohydrates, reducing down the amount of food that we're eating, or increasing the amount of carbohydrates that we're burning, aka doing more cardio or eating less carbohydrates and calories. So, are we actually getting smaller? Well, there is a difference between getting smaller and looking flatter. It can be quite frustrating when you're looking smaller or skinnier after a dieting phase. This doesn't actually have to be your reality. This presentation will walk you through the 4 critical levers that determine whether you keep your muscle or lose your muscle during a cut. So let's emerge from a cut looking leaner, fitter, stronger, and not just smaller. Now, it can be an illusion. As you can see in these 2 photos here, taken on the same day, there is a difference between losing muscle and being flat. When you have fullness in your muscle, the glycogen makes you appear smaller if it's not there, because your muscles are simply less full. So try not to get into your own head about thinking that you're losing all of your gains. It might a lot be down to fullness. The primary example of this is here. My competition prep, this was pre-refeed. This was on show day. And then this was after a refeed. I filled up a lot more. Now, when it comes to actually competing, we want to balance the filling out of the muscle and then spilling over. So if we put it in layman's terms, if you fill up the muscle to a point where it's not got any more ability to fill anymore, that subcutaneous water, that water then becomes subcutaneous water, okay? And that can make you appear soft and watery. But if you nail it properly, you can get a good amount of fullness whilst being dry and lean at the same time, okay? So the only difference between these 2 shots is a little bit more water, a little bit more carbohydrates, and potentially a little bit more salt as well. That gives the illusion of, well, not really an illusion, but it refills your muscle. So the 4 levers that we want to make sure that we concentrate on when it comes to muscle prevention is the size of our calorie deficit. If you go into a very aggressive calorie deficit, that is also going to impact the amount of muscle retention that you can achieve, mainly down to your training performance. The method that we create the calorie deficit with. Are we going to be reducing down our food heavily? Are we going to be increasing our cardio heavily? Is it a bit of both? The macronutrient breakdown, of course, we need to make sure that we have enough proteins, fats, and carbohydrates to effectively retain our muscle, perform in the gym. And then our training quality. Maintaining intensity and properly programming is crucial during a cut. Miss one of these and you'll shrink and you'll become a smaller version of yourself. You need to get all 4 of these right to then fully emerge from your cut looking leaner, fitter, and stronger. So, lever number 1, the size of the deficit. To lose body fat, we must be in a calorie deficit, burning more calories than we consume. But the size of a deficit will make or break the results. A very large deficit will lose body fat faster, but it also increases the risk for more muscle loss. A smaller deficit will lose fat slower, but it will be much better odds for keeping your muscle, which is why a longer set plan is always better than just trying to go short and sharp as fast as you can. For most men, the sweet spot is 0.5 to 1% of your body weight loss per week. So for example, a 90 kilo male is going to be looking at losing about 0.5 of a kilo per week. The pace is slow enough to hold muscle and perform well, but not fast enough, but fast enough to also motivate us. So over the 10 weeks, we lose about 10 kilos and keep your strength. Whilst faster cuts might make sense, now, there are phases that faster cuts do make sense. For example, when you're starting off at a higher level of body fat, if you're starting at 25 plus percent body fat, then a more aggressive start would be making sense. You're not really running as much risk of losing much muscle mass when you have a lot more stored energy. If you have a very hard deadline, So a competition or a photo shoot coming up or a holiday that is all looming very quickly, then maybe we have to trade off a little bit of the fat loss for muscle loss if we have a bit of a time constraint. Just understand that you will be sacrificing some muscle size in the process the more aggressive that you go. For most men, however, the long game always wins. Slow and steady isn't just easier to stick to, it also means that you're going to hold on to more muscle and you don't end up looking small and soft before you actually finish the cut. So, lever number 2, how to create the deficit. So, say for example, we've got a 400 calorie deficit that we need to create. We can either create that through just eating 400 calories less, we could do that through burning more for 400 calories, or we could split it between the both. Now, as I'm sure you can probably work out, splitting between the both is probably going to be the best option. We want to make sure that we have enough calories to have enough nutrients, protein, and fuel to be able to fuel our training session, but we don't want to be doing endless amounts of cardio either. Most of the time when people say that cardio is killing their gains, it's more so that they've taken too much out of their recovery tank in order to preserve the muscle mass. So splitting between the both, a balanced approach, trim food, manage hunger, and add in the right amount of activity. It's not cardio that kills your gains. It's poor planning. When you cut and you don't need to stop your cardio at all, keep lifting, keep doing your cardio, and keep building on both. So the correct training approach during a diet. In the gym, we still want to be lifting and training hard. We don't want to necessarily be chasing PBs every single week, but we do want to be training with a high level of intensity. We want to maybe do 3, 4 full training sessions in the week with slightly lower volume, making sure that the training is at high quality. With our cardio, we could still make sure that we get in some forms of running or zone 2 cardio. That's probably going to be the best form of cardio during a cut because it's not as intense and it's not going to negatively impact your training later parts during the week. Shorter sessions are easier to build up to, so I would try and prioritize those first. And then together, these will raise your fitness floor. Even in a deficit, you can still maintain the capacity to adapt and improve. Training serves as an insurance policy that protects your muscle whilst stripping off the fat. Now, lever number 3 is your macronutrient breakdown. We want to be aiming for 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of lean body weight. Enough to protect the muscle during a deficit. More isn't always better though. We want to be able to balance those with a bit of the calories coming from the foods in which are actually going to be helping us. Carbs will help us during our training as well, so do not think that carbs need to be removed altogether. For your fat intake, we want to be aiming for about 0.4 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. This is going to be sufficient to support your hormones, which again is incredibly important during a dieting phase. The remainder is then made up of your carbohydrates. These are essentially your primary fuel source, and do not underestimate these because using these can let you train harder, make you run stronger, and make you recover much faster. Most men don't lose muscle because they haven't hit their protein enough. Most men lose muscle because they haven't got the energy in their training sessions to actually signal to their body that they need to retain that muscle. If you don't do that, you're going to gradually shrink over the weeks. We also want to strategically time your meals. So a simple diet system to follow would be protein and fats for breakfast to manage your hunger and provide satiety if you're not going to train first thing in the morning. Carbohydrates concentrate around your pre and post-workout window for fuel and then recovery. And it's fine to have some boring days with your diet. Simple, boring default days during the week can make it a lot easier so you don't have to overthink your meals. We want to make this almost autonomous. Don't worry about making these meals a Michelin star restaurant. Obviously make them taste good, season them, but we don't need to overcomplicate this process. This approach fuels your performance, preserves muscle, and then maintains your deficit. The goal is to make your nutrients support your training, not fight against it. So lever number 4 is your training quality. Cutting calories doesn't mean cutting intensity. Your body only keeps what you need to keep. So we need to give it that signal to keep it. The biggest mistake that men make when they are looking to train is they think that they're fragile once they're on a cut. This is not the case. If you stop lifting heavy or pushing your intensity, you're going to signal to your body that that muscle just isn't necessary anymore. So train like you're actually building. Continue to train to build muscle. Hit every muscle group sufficiently with enough frequency and keep the weekly sets in a sweet spot. If you need to know more about that, then there are other videos on this channel for that. Push for progress. You might not hit lifetime PBs during your cut, but you can still work through progress with better form, more reps on the same weight, and maintain strength of your body whilst fat drops. Mindset does matter a lot with this. If you have entered every workout thinking I'm cutting and I'm weak, you will be weak. This negatively affects your belief and kills more muscle than your actual deficit. So, to round that all up, your action plan to get leaner, fitter, stronger, and not smaller is to keep your deficit shallow, 0.5 to 1% body weight loss per week, balance your strength and your endurance training, maintain cardio training with both lifting and running if needed, and adjust your volume accordingly. Fuel with a simple digestive system. Anchor your protein, give enough fats for your hormones, and then bias your carbohydrates towards your training window. Train with proper intensity. Imagine like you are going in there building muscle. Attack your sessions so that you're still building muscle and not just maintaining. The difference between losing muscle mass and retaining muscle mass isn't genetics or luck. It's about having a plan and a systematic approach. The right approach will keep you stripping body fat, but maintaining the muscle and the strength that you've worked so hard for. This process could make or break your diet, and most people start to tap out as soon as they think that they're losing muscle mass. Bear in mind what I said at the beginning of this presentation and make this cut enjoyable. If you found this helpful, don't forget to give this video a bit of a like, leave me a comment below, and I will speak to you in the next one. Any further questions, you can always DM me on Instagram. Otherwise, remember to be nice to people, eat your protein, do your cardio, and I'll see you in the next one.